This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know that I know. Nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, I know that I know.
Las Vegas is back, completely corona-free. Here at the Bellagio, the only thing we've tested positive for is decadence. Come to our world-famous poker room and isolate yourself from the infected commoners. Don't let all the empty seats fool ya. It's normally packed with high rollers, socially distancing themselves from the ongoing class war outside the casino walls. With our new state-of-the-art glass dividers, you get the type of privacy you deserve in a public space. It's like going to a peep show or visiting your brother in prison. So come on down to Bellagio Poker Room. Please, will you come? The bank is giving us 2 months to show a profit, otherwise we are toast.
You ever been to a peep show?
I don't know what that is. I didn't think that was like a real thing. I thought it was like in cartoons.
So you know what it is?
Yeah, I mean, but like I didn't think it was like in real life.
All right. All right. Well, welcome to the S4Y Vlogcast. This Vlogcast, it is a Vlogcast featuring poker, featuring hot topics, featuring current events, and we will talk about it all. Of course, it is your host, Christian Soto, along with my co-host, Matt Big Bet Alpha Reg Berkey. He has a ton of nicknames. You will learn more about them later on in the show. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm choking on a piece of bacon.
I know. I saw you coughing up a storm getting in here. You were throwing me off. I was just like trying to zone in, get into character, and you were just like, and I'm like, oh my God, like talent. I need
no Heimlich, no offer of assistance. Just
well, you've told me before that if someone puts you in a Heimlich or some sort of a chokehold or anything like that, you panic.
Gotta tell you, man, chokehold Heimlich, not the same thing.
Yeah, all right. Mouth to mouth. I wouldn't want someone giving me mouth to mouth and then like a guy giving me mouth to mouth. I don't know, man.
You'd rather die?
I've thought about this a little. Like it feels uncomfortable the amount of time I've thought about this. How do you feel?
I don't want to die.
Yeah.
I'm happy to survive.
Then why didn't you ask? For it when you were dying?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
All right. Well, there was a lot of spicy topics this week.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Calm week.
Nah, it was not a calm week, Mr. Berkey. There was a lot of spicy topics.
Corona's gone. Black Lives Matter's gone.
Nothing's gone.
Everything's fine in the world again.
No, nothing is gone. Everything is still present. And we're going to talk about it all, except the topics that people don't want us to talk about.
Sure.
So there are some topics that people do want us to talk about. Been heavily awaiting this. Mm-hmm. And it's your current state of poker beef.
I don't know. There's a beef?
There's a beef. You and somebody else are in a dispute.
Sure.
And it all started with your stream a couple weeks ago.
I knew I should have never started streaming.
This is what happens.
This is what happens.
He didn't like it. He didn't like it. So let's get the original focus. So you have a beef with this one man named PokerGuru. He is a young man affiliated with ACR, and he is launching a training site. Mm-hmm. And what happened is that you said something. So I'm going to pull up what you said about him and how this whole entire thing started. So it started with a speculative hand.
Sure.
So let's play this hand, 9-8 suited.
Okay, he opens off of just shy of 20. I think I can 3-bet get it in here. I don't think I need the 3-bet large. 60 seems pretty good. Many lives I live for love. It don't get easier.
The only person that 3-bets and sings.
Gotta let him have it, man. It don't get easy.
Okay, so you're 3-betting sevens here.
Yeah, this was
I could have min click folded,
hot debate.
which would have been unique. The range of hands that just call here. Certainly Broadway dense, for sure. Betting sucks here because I just get check shoved on by better. I'm going to check back. Heyo. I always think it's funny when people leave themselves with 5 bigs because then you actually have a real decision when you get snap shoved on. Obviously, that hand has equity. The only thing I can think of is he's trying to wait for the pay jump. But I'm not even sure there is one. Let's see. Yeah, there is one. So, what about the other table? Is somebody all in? Nope. He's just waiting for the hand to play out. But nobody's going to be all in. What up, David? Oh my god, he called off with 9-8? Oh, wow, what a punt. What a fucking punt. I can't believe that somebody who is smart enough to try to wait out the pay jump would raise call off of 19 with 9-8 suited in that spot and then just like rip a double gutty on a flush draw board.
So you were a little spicy there. I mean, I've gotten a little spicy on streams too. But like,
Whatever, man. You're playing for 6 hours and you see some stuff, you know?
all right. So the debate obviously spilled over to the Twitter streets. But before we get to that, the talking points, let's cut back to me first before we get to these Twitter streets. Sorry about that. There was some debate about the 7-7-3 bet. That was the big yeah, you're 3-betting me with sevens. You should be all in because it's a snap shove all in, right? Okay, fine. Your sizing was not great. All right.
No, the sizing's right. I don't know what anybody's talking about. 2.5x at those depths is certainly correct. I don't know why we're having this like big long debate of whether or not I should go larger. I don't think going larger really accomplishes anything. He's opening off of 20. We're putting a quarter of his stack at risk. Like I should have 3-bet folds in that spot, just like I should have 3-bet get-ins. Anything larger commits me. Obviously, that size is correct. Whether or not I should 3-bet sevens, sure, it's debatable. You could shove, but there's a massive ICM implications. I'm second or third in chips. Hugh needs the chip leader in the big blind, and playing an all-in pot here with 15 left or 16 left seems really silly and unnecessary. Whenever I can just isolate the guy who opens with 9 high off of 19. And apparently a lot of people were just saying like, you know, standard open, no big deal. Like, okay, fine. But everything that happened thereafter compounds off of the open, right? So it's like, sure, maybe you don't expect to get just 3-bet and you expect to get shoved on more often. Then you do get 3-bet. But you forget about what the initial incentive was to begin with, right? And it was just to steal. And how are you stealing? You're opening into the guy third in chips. The big blind is the chip leader. And another top 5 stack was between us. So it's just like this open's not getting through. You're under realizing your equity for sure. And then once you face the 3-bet, it's like, yeah, you have a plus chip EV call, but you're definitely losing money on ICM.
Okay. So now we see a flop. It goes check, check. The turn, you make a set.
Yeah.
Right? He bets fairly large, effectively committing himself.
Yeah.
Leaving himself with, was it 5 bigs? Or maybe a little less?
It was a little less.
Yeah. You shove, clearly. And you say it's a punt.
Well, I mean, him calling, yeah. That was obviously an emotional reaction. The punt was playing the hand.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, when I say he called off with 9-8, like, that's such a punt, yada, 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 it's not the bet call on the turn. I mean, I think open ripping turn is not great either. I think I would be, like, fairly confidently calling with ace king high.
Because you think that he can't really have a queen, open ripping a queen there.
Well, I know for sure he probably doesn't have a jack.
Right.
Right? So it's like, if I have ace king, his only real king would, or his only real queen would be, no, I'm good, thanks. His only real queen would be king queen, and it's like, I'm going to heavily block that. So I just imagine I'm going to be against draws more often than not. But in any event, that's also a byproduct of how much he's under realizing that spot. Out of position, 9 high, flops a gut shot, turns the double gutty, whatever. And, the counterpoint of like, oh, well, if you don't turn a set, you lose his hand. It's like, no, I don't, because he doesn't open shove if he only has a gut shot.
I see. So you're saying if the turn is, say, like a deuce, you expect him to just check, and then you check or bet or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so then this hand plays out on stream, and then it spills over to some tweets. So now let's pull up the tweets, and I'll kind of walk people through this. Okay, so PokerGuru 740 says, "Hi, Berkey 11. My friends have informed me that you were not so nice about a hand we played in your recent stream. It is clear to me you really don't understand what you are doing, math. But since you think you do, I'd like to challenge you to a 2-month-long prop bet." All right. Then it says, "Can we get a link to the not so nice hand?" which is the one we just saw. And it said, "Nah, we'll keep that mysterious. I only made a call that nets me 10% equity. Wild, I know." Doesn't really speak about ICM, but Berkey doesn't understand math, I guess. Let's run it, buddy. You got 2 likes on the last one. Okay. So you respond with, "The call isn't punty, it's the open. The call just compounds, and the 10% you're earning is chippy V with 15 left." You're going to say ICM effectively is greater than chippy V or dollar value. "I literally play 8 MTTs a week maximum, so not interested in a volume bet. Sorry, I offended. Feel free to fire up a stream and show us your talent / trash me. I'm all ears." Surely a player as talented as surely a talented player. Wait, surely you're a talented player. Why would you not be interested in a bet skill? Sorry, this is like, I have a weird angle here.
He's just basically saying, like, obviously you're good. Why wouldn't you be interested in playing somebody you think you're better than for a high volume bet? And he's willing to prolong the time frame longer than 2 months.
It's a long bet.
What we didn't show was my response to that, which is, I'm insulted that you think my time is worth so little. Like, I don't have 2 months to sit around and grind fucking volume. It's insane. Like, even during quarantine, this is the most online volume I've put in since pre-Black Friday. And I've probably played 100 tournaments.
He's trying to do like the Galfon challenge, where it's like,
not like the Galfon challenge at all. It's not even close to the Galfon challenge.
Well, it's not, but he's trying to make it seem like, hey, this really long bet. We'll see who's better. Blah, blah, blah.
Galfon is playing for $1 million.
Yeah.
And has like strong reason to do so. I have honestly, at the time, I wanted to just ignore it because, quite frankly, I had no fucking idea who this guy was and didn't care. And all it took was looking at his profile to see he was an ACR shield to just be like, oh, I really don't care now. But yeah, it just kept escalating. And he kept like saying, I don't understand math. It's like, listen, if we're gonna take tests on what our knowledge is, what our comprehensive knowledge is of math, of language, of anything across the board, poker included, I'm happy to sit down and do that. Like, it's just silly. It's like, I have a 4-year degree in computer science. We have to take extremely advanced math throughout the course of that. I certainly can figure out something as simple as pot odds, which I'm certain that he understands as well.
Right.
He's just disobeying some things that I think are pretty bad. And that's fine. We can agree to disagree on that.
It got heated, man. It's got heated. I'm trying to see his side. Like, let's try to play his side for 1 second. You don't shove, which would be considered the standard play. Small 3-bet, he calls, which would be considered fine. On the turn, he's repping a rather polar range versus you presenting a capped range.
He can't be polar on that turn. Right?
He's presenting one.
But he called pre.
Right. So he's saying
19.
Right. So he doesn't have jacks. He doesn't have queens. He has like
Doesn't have aces, doesn't have kings.
maybe a little bit of aces.
Why?
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm just saying maybe he has a little bit of aces. He might argue he has a little bit of aces.
Right.
He might argue he has maybe some ace queen.
No.
Okay.
Stop it.
I'm trying to play it, like I'm trying to see like how can this work?
You want to play it from his side? It's like he got upset. His ego got bruised. If I called out every single person who examined one of my hands and trashed me, I would be exhausted.
Right.
Right? It's like play the fucking game in the public eye, let people say what they're going to say, and move on with your life. If this hand was reversed, I would get filleted for playing 9-8 that way.
That's true.
There's nobody who would make an excuse for playing 9-8 that way if it were in my hands.
So you think it's he felt as if like, hey, like don't like he just felt bad that you spoke bad about him.
I think he felt bad, and I think he's clout chasing.
Well, he's out there and he wants this battle, man. So I think the people need to know.
He's lucky I didn't take him up on it. I won 2 tournaments in like a week. I played like 10 events since then, and I'm up like 50K.
The people want to know. The people want to know who is the favorite in this battle. They want to know who's the favorite in this battle, and they need the data. They need to know what's going on. So here at Solve4Y Studios, we built a little tail of the tape. We want to know who is the favorite in this match. I had to do research. Derek had to do research. Everyone in this building started doing research. We wanted to know if you were going to win this match, if he was going to win this match. The people out there are like, we want to know. All right. So we put together all of our brains and came up with the tail of the tape, that of which we will present right now. Let's go. The poker beef. It is Matt Berkey versus the PokerGuru. Representing Solve4Y, Matt Guru represents ACR. 16,500 followers, and Poo Dog represents Guru. 4.2 million for Matt. 600K in total earnings for Guru. Matt Berkey with the alpha presence. Guru with the guru presence. Berkey, founder of Solve4Y, known for 4-syllable words, biggest stakes, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000. Full name of Guru is unknown, 600K, and known for being unknown. I think I have to change the way I sit to represent the Guru. Hold on. Let's sit like...
You're going to cross your legs?
Yeah, like,
That's how Andre sits whenever he's in the...
Okay. Well, I feel like I lost 2 inches of height total. All right. Well, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about someone with those stats coming at you, man?
I don't care, but it's fun to argue, basically. So the first go around of all this, I was super annoyed that this guy who I've never heard of, who, as far as I can tell by searching, is likely to be a break-even or losing player, calls me out, tells me I don't know how to play, don't know anything about the game, don't know anything about math. I don't even care that he tells me I'm not good at poker. Say I don't know anything about math is where it becomes insulting. And, challenges me to this nonsense, like as if I've been playing poker for 18 years. I'm certainly not going to take a bet that involves me playing $11 MTTs. Right? It's like I've graduated past certain things. And I'm not saying I'm too big for an $11 MTT by any means. Like if push came to shove and I woke up tomorrow and had to start over, I'd be right there with everybody else. But my time has a certain fucking attachment to it right now. It's worth a lot to me. And, I'm putting in 50, 60 hours a week just in the business alone. High stakes cash is running. My ROI or my return there is a lot greater. I'm certainly not going to do things that are going to hinder both my short and long-term prospects, right? So I'm annoyed. I fired back. I shouldn't have, maybe. I should have just ignored him, flick him off like a bug, let him go his way. But I didn't. And I offered him a counter. And the reason was because I saw he played high stakes on Poker After Dark. So I was like, hey, let's play live cash. I don't care if we play heads up. I don't care if we play six max, whatever. Let's just build a game around this. And he replied, LOL volume. As if like 2 months of MTT grinds is representative. Maybe he doesn't understand math.
Ooh, wow.
Could be feasible. In any event, I basically said, like, I'll play any stakes you want, and I'll play any format you want of live cash. And we can stream it. We can do whatever you want. He's not interested, right? So we've been playing a lot of high stakes on WSOP. 1020's been running almost every day. 2550's been going off all the way up to 100, 200. So I put in my third session of 100, 200 the other day. Seats were open, and I just happened to feel a little frisky. I wanted to remind this guy that while he's grinding $11 MTTs on ACR, we're out here playing for cars. And he's available. If he's available, would love to have him. So I fired back again. And it very quickly escalated into him wanting to keep pushing this bet. So basically, I offered him both sides. I said, look, I think you're doing this just to get clout for your new training site, which is strange to me that you have one, because from everything I can tell, you're not a winning player. But, it is what it is. So I'll do you a favor. Let's crossbook the WSOP. That'll give you your MTT side. And then from the cash side, we can play anything you want from 1020 all the way up to 100, 200. We'll live stream the whole thing. I'll give you all the footage. You can review it on your fucking site, and you can rationalize away everything that happens, and we'll go our merry way with the results.
Let's check the DMs, man. It seems like some DMs were leaked. And here we go. All right. So it says there's a lot. So Berkey, walk me through what this is saying right now.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, it's just like what I was kind of discussing just now. It's like, first he asked me to DM him privately instead of just discussing it openly. It's like, okay, fine, no big deal. But then he, I think it's like super disingenuous to apologize publicly or privately when you've been filleting somebody publicly. So he starts to apologize in the DMs, and I'm just like, I'm sorry that I don't take this sincerely, but when you basically call me a snake oil salesman in public and then try to apologize privately, I just think you're a coward. And I don't walk back any of that. I think that that's wholeheartedly true. So, we continue to go back and forth a little bit. And I just said, look, this is the way that I see it. You're clout chasing. You have a big fucking mouth, and you want to run this big gamut of a challenge. You think you're good at poker, and you think I suck. So here's the offer. I'll play you any stakes that you want between this spectrum. We can get a crossbook on the side if you like. And I'll do a crossbook for WSOP Bracelet Events. And he basically starts like walking back saying like, I'm on my own. This is too big for me. Like, I'm not a cash player. You are, as if like somehow any of this matters, right? Like, we're both poker players. And like, how could he just qualify himself as an MTT specialist with literally no fucking results to speak of?
So then this spilled over to Twitter. More DMs. You guys DM'd a lot. Like, you guys were in each other's DMs out there.
I couldn't help myself.
So then you put this out. What made you put this out?
Well, I basically just tweeted because I was pissed that all of this was happening in private. And I think that he's just being very disingenuous to what his actual public tweets are. So I just tweeted and said something to the effect of like, DM'd Guru to set up a crossbook. He just wanted everybody to know that he's apologized and walked back on everything that he said. And he like kind of replied and said like, don't put words in my mouth. That's not what happened at all. Yada, yada, yada. So I was like, okay, here's the proof. You guys judge.
So now what? Now what, Burke? What do we do? Like, what do you?
Nothing. What's there to do? Who is this guy? Who the fuck is this guy?
He said he's known in the online world.
In the what? He has no resume to speak of. None. I've never heard of this fucking guy. I saw him on Poker After Dark, and I was like, who's the businessman?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm with you. I feel as if... Why do you feel like people come at you, man? Why do you feel like people come at you?
Because I'm an asshole. Because I'm doing this right now.
Because
Listen, I woke up that morning, and I was just like, I'm not Phil Gelfond. I can never be Phil Gelfond. I'm not that zen. I grew up grittier, like just fighting for more. Like I've never been that talented at anything where I just internally had this calm where it was just like, come at me, bro. I don't care. I'm Farrah Gelfond. I'm Farrah. I can't take it. It's just, who the fuck do you think you are? You have to earn respect. Like he said something in the DMs of like, you should show me a little bit more respect than that, or you should be more respectful from that. After he's like slandering me in public. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? Respect is earned. Like, you're not going to talk down to me and then demand respect from me privately. It's like, I'm here to tell you that I don't respect you at all. As a person, as a poker player, as a coach, none of the above. So it's like, you know, I'm not going to bite my tongue over this stuff. For the last 5 years, I've done my damnedest to like turn the other cheek. It all started with the Polk thing. It was like, okay, let him say what he's going to say. I'll just turn the other cheek. You know, it's better for us to take the high road. I took ownership of bailing on that game, you know, and I just tried to like do my best to be diplomatic about it.
yeah.
But now it's like, I'm getting trolled by somebody who's like grinding an average buy-in of $12. Get the fuck out of here.
Nah, he's probably averaging more, but I get your point. Yeah, I get your point. It's you feel as if you've reached a certain level, like you've played really high stakes, like you've played the super high roller bowl, you've done all these things, and like you're getting like how can that?
I mean, I don't even care that I've played those stakes, right? Like, I don't think that defines somebody's worth. I don't think that defines somebody's ability or the cloth that they're cut from. I care that like I've sustained this career for 18 years profitably. Never like swaying once, right? And I have won at all those stakes, right? It's not like I've just played them. I've been successful at all those stakes. I'm not running around like touting my resume, but like, you know, let's call a spade a spade. And it just gets like, I get it. This is the hill that we die on because, you know, the second that you open a business within a business community, you become some sort of like, you know, target of sorts. And it's like, that's fine. I can accept that. And for the most part, like, I do let it roll off. But it's like, this guy's affiliated with an online site. This guy has some sort of following and is now about to launch a competing product. Squash it, right? Don't let it get tracked. Put an end to it before it even begins.
Well, I've enjoyed this show so far of seeing you go back and forth with him. I thought it was about time. I was like, you know, I was a little tired of you always turning the other cheek. It's like, all right, well, finally. Like, it took a little while.
Honestly, like, it's so immature and it's so petty and it comes off so, I guess, like, sophomoric. But at the same time, are you not entertained?
That's the whole thing, yeah.
Like, poker Twitter has just been a fucking... Not just poker Twitter. Honestly, Twitter as a whole, given the current state of affairs in the world, has just been, like, such a drain. Where it's like, you can't open it without a new Corona stat or two people bickering over one side or the other of the racial coin. And you know...
Chris D'Elia with 16-year-olds.
Yeah, like, now all of a sudden, all of Hollywood's getting canceled. And you know, then that spills over into poker Twitter, where poker has just been, like... It's really wild, actually, because everyone's home and everyone's playing. And, like, when the last time that happened was pre-Black Friday. And that was when poker Twitter was first starting off. Bro, you couldn't open Twitter or Facebook without seeing a rail post or a profit graph. Or basically, like, you know, we were all young then. We were all in our 20s, just getting into social media.
Yeah.
We were playing this game for a living and had the ability to display it. So like that was all you saw. Now everybody's home playing on some fucking private club, getting skinned alive by the rake, and no one wants to talk about it. So all of a sudden, like all of the content in the poker arena at least has just like completely disappeared. So it's kind of a nice welcome distraction.
I hope you all enjoyed that welcome distraction. And now it's time to talk about rake. There's been some talk about rake and the WSOP. Of course, the WSOP will be starting their online bracelet series. And all the chatter's been about rake. So I think Ryan LaPlante does a pretty good job of dictating the problems. And he puts up this tweet. The rake structures for upcoming WSOP.com bracelets are as follows. $40 for the 360, $50 for the 450, $60 for the 540, $77 for the 700, $50 for the 950. That which is ironic because the 50 for and the $50 rake for the 950 and 450 are the same. $75 for the 14, $25, and finally $160. He goes on to say the normal rake on a 500 for a 500 on the site is $465 plus 33. They've increased the rake on these events from the typical 7% to an absurd 11%. So, pretty high rake. A lot of players were saying that this is similar to what you would see in a live venue. This is not an online typical rake structure. And a lot of people are firing back. They're just saying like they're not happy with this. They feel as if they're getting taken advantage of. They know that WSOP just assumes that they're always going to play it anyway, no matter how high the rake is. At what point does it stop? A lot of negative things to say about WSOP. Jared Jaffe ended up saying something along the lines of, at what point, does a company like not listen? His tweet. It was like they don't listen, they don't care, they take advantage of us, and we still like keep showing up. So that's where we're at. We're very short, couple weeks, couple days away from the WSOP online series. I definitely want a bracelet. I would like to have one. It would be a nice thing to show my parents that I finally did something with my life. They came here from the Dominican Republic, said, I want you to go to law school. I want you to do all these things. I ended up being a professional poker player, and now my sisters have the family company. So
you got a podcast.
I do have a podcast and a nice, I get to tell the tale of the tape of you and some guy, So that's nice. And now I get to play some tournaments at my house. So I'll say what I think. You and I have been talking about this for a couple days. I think that they definitely are taking advantage of the fact that they are WSOP and they expect people to play it anyway because of the allure of the bracelet. And people like me that I don't have a bracelet. There's a lot of players that don't have a bracelet. There's players that want more bracelets. And even the recreationals would love to have a bracelet to go back to their home game and tout that they have a bracelet. So the allure of the bracelet is so strong that it's going to bring people in. The allure of the softness of the tournaments potentially going to bring people in. Will it be soft online? I don't know. WSOP with that knowledge just says we're gonna rack up the rake and you tell us what you're going to do about it. Mm-hmm. And that leaves a bad taste in my mouth because it just feels wrong. Now, I don't know, will I speak with my wallet or will I just, that's kind of what we're talking about right now.
Let me ask you something.
Okay.
If you sold Christmas lights for a living, right? That's what you did. You manufactured Christmas lights and you sold them. Mm-hmm. They have other uses outside of Christmas. People probably buy them throughout the year. You have a very busy season, though.
Yeah.
It's very specific to Christmas.
Yeah.
You sell at a discount?
No, of course not.
You sell at the same price?
No, we wouldn't.
Right. Welcome to the WSOP. Their market share doesn't grow throughout the year.
So it's like flowers on Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to pay $300 for that.
Yeah. Dozen roses on Valentine's Day, $300. Dozen roses any other day of the week, $30.
Yeah.
Right? You have to, I mean, this is just a fundamental misunderstanding of how business operates. And the fact of the matter is, when demand greatly outweighs supply, you get to do whatever you want as the supplier. Now, of course, you want good faith actors and you want people who aren't going to gouge you, but they're not exactly gouging. They could make it 20% and you'd all still show up. Period. End of story, right? They just put it in line with what they do live, and they should, right? I don't like it. I don't want to pay extra rake. I want to be on the side of the players. But until we band together and say, fuck you, I'm not playing event 1, and publicly tout that, right? Rally everybody together and get 1,000 people to not show up, move their numbers, and they'll lower the rake. But like, until you do that, they have no incentive to, because throughout the rest of the year, the other 11 months out of the year, their clientele does not grow because their liquidity is restricted to New Jersey and Nevada. Mm-hmm. People aren't flocking to either of these states to play online poker, right? So their bottom line is fixed. The WSOP represents a huge chunk of their bottom line every summer. It's been taken away. You want them to just give up on that revenue while still offering you a service? Also, their rake is the same as it was last year. You just didn't notice because they didn't run small events. You see they give a rake break at the higher events. Why?
Because it's a higher event.
No.
The rake's always smaller the higher you go.
No.
Why do
I
you...
mean, very slightly, but not to this degree. It's like half. Why do they lower it at the higher price point?
There's less demand.
Exactly. Wow. We just learned Econ 101. You don't have as much demand, so you give people incentive to play.
So you think it's a demand issue? The fact that, like, kind of how I started the conversation is simply people are going to play, and they know that they're going to play. Yep. So they just charge more because they're still going to get the same people. And even if they get less people, the fact that they raise a little bit higher, they still make more.
And they're not going to get less. They're just not, right? There's nothing else going on for anybody to do. You know, the entire World Series festival has been reallocated to online. People are going to play.
So why are people going to play? This is the thing. Like, okay, so there's no guarantees.
Right.
So people could just say, we're not going to play. Like, they're not going to lose out on, there's not going to be an overlay.
Right.
There's not going to be anything like that. They could just say, we're going to play. We're going to play on ACR. We're going to play on GG. We're going to play on Party. We're going to play on these sites. And it's like, you know, let's cut the bullshit. Like, people are playing on those sites through mediums, and those sites allegedly are turning a blind eye. So there's other options. There's a lot of other options. So can the community just say, we're not going to play? Like, there's a lot of other options.
They could. They could also do the same thing with ACR and say, like, as a community, we're not going to play until your bots go away. Right? Like, you know, this is an issue that keeps getting swept under the rug, and all of the shills are going to tell you that there aren't very many bots. Fact of the matter is, they're getting discovered all the time, right? And like, Stars just released their security report, and I'm sure they did it because they felt confident in the numbers that it wasn't going to sway anything. We don't hear from these other sites, right? And I don't know how much of that is turning a blind eye. I don't know how much of that is that it's actually a big problem that they haven't wrangled in yet. But the fact of the matter is, all of these sites benefit from botting and these other things taking place because it still drives, it increases traffic, right? And a lot of the bots are unsophisticated, so they're not doing all that well. They're winning, obviously, but they're not like beating the best players. So, you know, in a large way, they kind of go pretty undetected because they're playing smaller stakes. You know, they're sucking up EV from the bottom of the ecosystem. It is what it is. The whole reason I'm bringing that up is because when you say, like, okay, you could just choose ACR over WSOP. It's like, yeah, you could. But the thing with online is you can just do both, first of all. Right. Secondly, at that point, now you're choosing slightly lower rake for a bot-infested environment over a bot-free environment with slightly higher rake. So it's like, pick your poison, right? In some instances, I would much rather pay a slightly higher premium to know that I'm playing against humans.
That's fair. It's definitely fair. But then there's other options too. You know, that may or may not be, you know, in people's best interest.
Again, like now you're putting on more risks. Like, are you willing to VPN into GG? No, not knowing like if they're going to get more strict. They're partnering with new entities over and over and over again, right? They're partnering with WSOP now, which is a regulated site. Maybe you don't want to put yourself at that risk, right?
So then how do we, okay, if the community wants a lower rake, how do they speak? Because
Don't show up, right? I mean, you poker's never going to become a union. It's not going to happen. And, you know, by and large, we lack industry leaders. We just don't have them. There's no voice for the community. There's no one person to rally behind. The entire community is just utterly divided.
you
right?
think so? You think if Phil Goffon today said like, hey, like,
I think Phil's the exception.
yeah, like,
But my point with that is I don't think Phil wants that responsibility on his shoulders. Nor should
it's also feels like he put himself in a predicament where it's like he could be a little biased where it's like, oh, don't play WSOP. It's like, oh, but you have your own site.
right. So that's the slippery slope, right? Phil's in the position that he's in because he remains neutral. If he does suddenly become that rallying voice for the entire community while being an operator, it becomes a lot more tricky because in a lot of ways he's going to be speaking out against competitors. And I think he's done a really fantastic job. Like he's actually speaking positively about most of his competitors, and he's trying to seemingly enhance the online environment for everybody. The whole point that I'm getting at is like,
You think Doug Polk could do it?
I think he has the platform, but I don't think I think that he is a good example why we don't have industry leaders. We're all so divisive in our beliefs, right? We don't have like I think Phil is a great example of like why he makes for a good ambassador. He's very like thoughtful and mindful, and you know he leads in a very I guess like
Diplomatic way. Kind of.
yeah, like he's very neutral in his approach, and I think that's good. Like you know he put out a blog post the other day, and he said usually I spend like a week or so writing these out, but I rushed this one because of what the discussion's been. It's like just the fact that he's willing to say like it takes me a week to empty my thoughts on paper, comb over them again, have somebody else comb over them, and make sure that everything is the message that I'm trying to send. That shows like how diplomatic and neutral he is trying to be. Where like obviously that was never Doug, and like even that's never going to be me. That's never going to be. I guess like Ingram to some degree tries to like play both sides, but I don't really think that Joey's neutral, and I don't think he comes off as neutral. I think that like you know he just doesn't ever take a hard stance one way or the other.
I want to continue that topic through a different vein. So I want to bring up the average age of the WSOP main event. And my point with this is that the average age has been going up like consistently. So there's a graphic I want to bring up with the average age of the WSOP main event. So let's pull that up. So here we go. So 2010, the average age of the WSOP was 37. As you see, almost every year moving forward, it's been consistently going up. 2018, the average age now is 41. So what this is showing me, at least in part, right, is that there's less and less young money coming in. Now, there's been a lot of different reasons for this. Like people say like, oh, well, since online is gone, there's no satellites into the WSOP main event, so much harder for people to get money, things like that. I think it's a little bit of the young crowd. Like, okay, how I got in was like I saw Tom Dwan playing Poker After Dark, and I'm like, oh, this kid's young. I relate to him, and he's from Jersey, and he's beating up all these old heads on Poker After Dark, and he has like a cool style.
Yeah.
So I want to know more about this.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of money. There is none, that doesn't exist. So you could say, oh, there's no TV money because there's no online money. But there's no young, like...
There's no heroes.
Yeah, there's no,
only anti-heroes.
Yeah, there's no young guns to root for.
Right.
Like, and...
Everybody's an anti-hero with the exception of like a select few who people feel like they do the best job of mimicking the solver. Honestly, the hero has become the machine, right? We've amplified the solver now to a level where people are critical of the most successful in this industry because it doesn't follow a necessary blueprint that a calculator has demonstrated to us, right? So there is no, the dream is different, right? We've aged out in a big way. And I kind of brought this up the other day. Negrano was asking for questions for his podcast. And
Questions for his podcast.
Yeah.
I spend hours preparing for this podcast. I don't ask nobody questions. I don't cheat. I don't do nothing. I just come up with my brain and say, what are some important topics that people want to hear about? You know, and I try to get a pulse for the people. I read everything. I go on everybody's thing.
Hey, guru, that's what you're supposed to do when you're not Negrano.
All right, well.
When you're on the grind, you got to put in the fucking work.
Fucking guy just says, hey, guys.
He has 500,000 people. You can just ask.
Oh, just tell me what you want to talk about.
Right.
I'll tell you.
This is my point, though. So this is a discussion that I've been having for a while now. I don't think it's feasible for anybody to achieve Daniel Negreanu's influence in poker ever again. Or at least not without something catastrophic changing in the industry. I think that we may be facing a shrinking community. And a lot of this is, basically I was making the argument that though Negrano is charismatic, though he is a good table talker, though he's very good at poker, and all these characteristics, a lot of that didn't matter. A lot of his success now is just a byproduct of being cherry picked during a time where there was only a handful to choose from. So guys like him, Helmuth, Antonio, the old guard that's still revered as the household name, that has profiles 3 to 5x. I mean, if you look at like Negrano's reach, Helmuth's reach, Antonio's reach, and then we look at the 3 biggest profiles outside of that from my generation, maybe we look at like a Galfond, an Ike, a Jakun, or a Polk. Negrano dwarfs everyone. Negrano has more of a following than that entire collective put together.
Yeah. It's like
Right?
Negrano, Ivy. It's just.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How could I leave Ivy off? It's insane. Mainly just because he's so private, right? But like the fact of the matter is that group is untouchable. And the reason behind it is that they were a selective group during a time frame when this industry was booming and a lot of money was put behind them for churn. So they had major industries or major businesses within the industry putting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars behind them to build out who they became. We'll never see it again. We'll never see it again. And I think Polk has demonstrated like what the boundary is of what you can build without any outside influence. And it's like, somewhere between 100 and 200,000 followers, which is a fraction of what the actual poker community is. It's a fraction of the household name reach that a guy like Negrano has. And as my generation begins to age out, which is what we're seeing in this graphic with the World Series, right? I'm 38 now. So I might represent the upper bound of my generation, but like I think Galfond's like 35. Jason's like 33, 34, something like that. So like we're looking at the mid to late 30s beginning to age out. We're gonna move on to other things. We'll still play poker, right? But like we're gonna age out as well.
Where does that leave?
Exactly, right? What's that next generation look like? Because the Brad Owens and the Andrew Nemes, they're not that young either. They're like I actually think Nemes older than me, and Brad's younger for sure, but like I still think he's in his 30s.
Okay.
So I still think he's like the lower bound of this generation, right? No one in their 20s has this kind of like trajectory.
Right. So let's talk about the 20-year-olds. So we're talking about very, very few. We're talking about Fox, Foxin. We're talking about my Spaniard friend that I'm forgetting, Adrian Mateos. Like, I don't know.
And then like the Europeans, Europeans that have like been crushing online.
Yeah.
The thing that you associate with that entire group though is anonymity, right? We didn't even know who Linus was for a long period of time.
Right, for sure.
And yeah, it's like, Adrian's a killer. Foxen's a killer. Like, these guys are very good at the game, but they're very wealthy at a young age, like wealthier than the vast majority of the guys from my generation were in their 20s. And we had free money during the online boom, right? So, you know, I see them as like tacticians that will just play this game at the absolute highest stakes available until they just can't. And they're going to make all the money doing it, but no one's going to remember. And that's not a bad thing. It's just bad for the game, right? It's bad for the growth of the game, because now the 16-year-old who's downloading a poker client for the first time and playing on his dad's account or whatever is still idolizing Negreanu.
Yeah. And then you'd think that's a problem.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's no...
And if he's not idolizing Negreanu, he's just idolizing a bunch of pre-solved charts that he got from Range Converter, or, you know, a Finding Equilibrium video, or
so it's interesting
like
because, okay, so people saying like, oh, online and those TV, you know, like the new generation doesn't really watch TV. It's not like they're like tuning into NBC at 12 a.m. Like, they're just on YouTube, or they're on TikTok, or they're on whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So, but there is poker content on YouTube.
But even if you look at the content creators on YouTube, we're old. We're all old.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like, we're not in touch with the 20-year-olds. It's why there's that like hard divide between serious young up and comers, and like, we capture the rec audience. But they still don't see us the same way they see Negreanu, because there's a hierarchy, right? They may recognize Brad Owen and say, like, he's a celebrity. If I see him, I'm going to ask him for a picture, right? They may recognize Marley walking down the hall and say, like, I got to get a picture with her. I know her from YouTube. But if they see Negreanu, they are starstruck.
Yeah, it's like if I ever see Durr.
Yeah.
It's like to me, Durr is like
his presence.
Yeah.
It's next level.
Right. It's just like, that's Durr. Like, that is like the reason I play poker. It's like I could see somebody else, like, it's like, yeah, like, you're cool, but like, you're not Durr, you know?
Right. Baseball's suffering from this too. They have a huge messaging problem with their up and coming stars. If you remember the early to mid 2000s, and granted it was during the live ball era when people were using PEDs, but everyone in the world knew who Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire were.
Yeah, why you always leave my man out?
Who's your man? A-Rod?
No, like my man Sammy.
Poppy?
Like Sammy.
Sammy?
Like, how you leave Sammy? He made that thing too.
He was such a second fiddle though.
Yo, when it was McGwire and Sammy. Like, they both made that storyline.
But it was only that year. Here's the irony. The reason I leave Sammy off is for the same reason why baseball is a messaging problem now. He wasn't elevated, right? His numbers are insane. He actually hit more home runs than McGwire in his career. Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that. McGwire hit 50 his rookie year, right? And he hit over 50 like 4 or 5 times in his career. So did Sosa, which nobody knows. And a lot of that was just due to the messaging issue, as well as like Sosa got busted with the cork bat. Sosa got busted with the PEDs before everyone else. McGwire got busted with a bottle of Andro sitting in his locker. Not busted, like it was legal, you know? And he was just like, yeah, what do you don't use Andro? I don't understand. And everybody just like forgot about it. And then he went out and hit 71, and you know, he was a celebrated hero. And then Bonds just shattered it the following year. Like, that was the other thing, is that I think Sosa and McGwire both hit over 50 the following year when Bonds hit 76.
Right.
And it was just a story like that you couldn't duplicate. Bonds was like out of this world. He hit 76 and was walked like 220 times
For
or
sure,
something.
it was wild.
But the whole point I'm getting at is like, yeah, that was centrally focused on home runs. And I can't even tell you who won. The Yankees were winning World Series, right? But nobody knows. The pennant chases weren't important. It was about the individuals. There are no individuals in today's game of baseball. Mike Trout is one of the best talents MLB has ever seen. Like, he is LeBron level talented. He's in a market that's dead in Anaheim. No one fucking cares.
It's not a market thing though, because we've seen market not matter as much. Like, we've seen this in basketball, where it's like Cleveland's not a big market, but like LeBron's just so big that he made it a market.
Right.
KD.
But LeBron's
like
very special, right? Because and KD is very special. You look at Tim Duncan and Robinson in San Antonio.
Yeah, but they were boring. Like
they were boring because it was a byproduct of the market. If they were in LA, man, you would have heard about them.
Nah, San Antonio was boring. San Antonio was like known for being boring. Like
right, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand their play style was also boring, but it doesn't matter. If he was just getting buckets the same exact way in LA, he would have been Shaq level.
Yeah.
Right? It's just it's a byproduct of being in a small market. Clyde Drexler is another great example.
Yeah, for sure.
Played for the Trailblazers during the era of Jordan and was dwarfed.
So poker doesn't have like there is no city market problem. It's just like universal game, mostly an American game.
Well, there's a weird dilution, right? Because there's literally no objective criteria whatsoever, to the point where we lack transparency to our own fault, right? There's no real objective measurement of baseball, but there's enough statistics where you could start to say things aren't an anomaly. Bonds is a career 300 hitter. He's a good hitter, right? We know this. You can objectively say that. And then from there, you can like begin to rank. So what you'll never do is pin down what the top 10 is, but it's very clear who belongs in the top 10. If you ask the universe who the top 10 best poker players in the world are, you will have lists that include Jamie Gold and Chris Moneymaker. You'll have other lists that include 10 people that you and I may not have ever heard of, and you'll have everything in between. There is literally no measuring stick. And that's why people love PO, because now you can measure people's mistakes at least to some degree. And once you find people fallible, this is why we have a marketing issue. Because once you're able to find people fallible, you reduce the gap between you as the everyman and them as the accomplished pro. And now all of a sudden, it appears to the naked eye that we're all on the same playing field.
I think that's a good point. I think that's a really good point. Because then all of a sudden I'm like seeing Durr and I'm just like, oh, I could beat Durr.
Right.
I could be in that game.
Right.
You know?
Right. And you have no idea how much money he's made. Right. We all have agreed community wide that Hendon Mob and tournament scores and things like that just aren't great measuring sticks. They're nice bullet points on your resume, but like not necessarily indicative of how profitable you've been as a player. So, you know, outside of online graphs, which if you're in America, you just don't have, there's no way to measure.
So let's go over to a game that is booming recently, and that's chess. They have had 10x their original viewership recently, and it's a pretty big deal. They've like started surpassing poker and some people really caring. So they ran this campaign where they're getting some gamers to come in, play some chess against another gamer, and they kind of have like some commentary from people that actually know what they're doing. So I want to show a little clip. It's kind of a funny clip. It went viral of two gamers playing, and then this gamer makes like a blunder, and then the game's over. So let's play that.
The process here, because when you bring out the bishop like this, it can become very vulnerable right away. So I'm not sure that I like the variational approach here.
No, please don't. And it's too soon. It's too soon, Hikaru. We didn't even reach a climax.
Game. I was kind of feeling that girl though. I'm not gonna lie.
Sure.
All right. So that went viral mostly because like he made a big blunder and he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Yeah.
So the guy like he checkmated him like quick.
Yeah.
And also the funny part of, you know, she's saying like, you know, it's too soon.
Yeah.
And things like that. And then
Like toy with him.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty funny. So this has gotten a lot of attention. Their campaign, it's from chess.com, and they're effectively like, I assume paying some of these gamers, you know, probably not like a large amount, but just to come on, stream, have some commentary from people that actually know what they're doing. Obviously, every now and then they get some good clips like this, and it's working. It's working a lot. They have 10x their normal viewership. There's a lot of buzz on the chess, and people are saying like, okay, can poker do this? Is it something that, you know, would work? And I think there's something to it. If Kevin Hart was on there with a gamer and it was me yelling at the top of my lungs, don't do that. I think it might work. You know, I think it has a little bit of a trajectory there. The issue that we are, or at least thinking about, is like, okay, how many people do stick? Like, how many people stick around? Because, you know, the conversations I was having yesterday was like, okay, you have to build this magnet that is a strong magnet, and passing people through this magnet, some people will stick. If your magnet sucks, it doesn't matter how many tricks and and hoops you pull through.
So I think poker and chess are polar opposites in this regard. The barrier of entry to play chess is 0, right? It's free. So that can happen. You can just have a gamer play a grandmaster and it costs no one anything. And obviously the gamer is going to get embarrassed. Due to the lack of luck, there's no variance in chess. It's a fixed board, right? Because of that, there are very concrete objective ceilings that people can obtain. And the issue with that is it hurts retention, right? If you know out of the gate you're restricted to being less than a grandmaster, there isn't a whole lot of incentive for you to study chess for a lifetime, right? Also, if you know out of the gate that being a grandmaster doesn't really come with all that many benefits, or it's going to take a lifetime of study to get there, right? Then again, it's like a little bit dissuading. So the actual, like if we look at it through a marketing standpoint, the actual casting a wide net and getting eyes to the game is a lot easier for chess because it's easy for people to play. There's super low barrier of entry. They really just need to understand the rules, and that's probably the most difficult element of it. But largely speaking, you can capture short-term retention. Retention is a massive issue, though, because people just aren't going to have the time and dedication to doing what it takes to become great. Poker is the opposite. Poker is very difficult to funnel in new eyes and new money because it's a complex game that's rooted in gambling and has a high barrier of entry from a cost standpoint, right? You can lose money and significant amounts if you're not very good. But the retention of it is phenomenal because there is no objective measuring stick. So all you have to go off of whether or not you're good is how you feel. And that's it. The difference between you and whoever we perceive to be the greatest player in the history of Earth at the game of poker is opinion.
Yeah.
It's all opinion based, right?
True.
There's absolutely nothing that can quantify the difference between a regular Joe and a seasoned pro.
So PokerGuru is right.
In what regard?
He's right. PokerGuru is right. He might be better than you. We don't know.
It's a matter of opinion.
Why did we even do the tail of the tape?
It's a matter
I'm
of
taking
opinion.
it off myself. I'm taking this off. No tail of the tape. It's your opinion. Opinion.
I mean, by his opinion, yeah, he's better than me. But
I like the tail of the tape.
there is something objective about poker. It's money won.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's variance in all of that, and people can run above expectation for a lifetime, an opportunity. There are so many compounding effects that result in bottom line that it's very difficult to ever like confidently say he's winning X amount of big blinds per 100. Right. But that said, it's not that difficult to confidently say he's a winning player, he's not a winning player.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, so there is some barrier though, and I think it's the complexity of chess. So I want to play a little bit of a strategy segment of chess. I don't understand chess that well, and I know you don't that much either.
Yeah.
So I want to play a little bit of this strategy from chess.
Could get him. But if he pushes pawn up, is that position where my queen is? Like where my queen is there? Is that a better position or is that still just not even worth?
So you can play this. Yeah, this is a good move. Now, knight f6 is probably the best move. Queen f6 is a very decent move because he might take your knight. That's actually possible, and this mate in one. Imagine what that would create. The problem is, again, if he knows what to do, he plays bishop to e3 here, then queen f6 is a slightly inaccurate move. We basically transpose into theory. But I would, you know what? Why don't you risk it? I would just risk it.
I like that, yeah.
And
Sometimes I do that when I'm like teaching a student. I'm like, fuck it, just go all in.
Yeah.
And I think he and I are saying the same thing.
Kinda,
Like, why don't you just risk it? I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck it, just go all in.
Yeah.
Like, he has to call.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't under. The reason I bring this up is because I think there is this barrier, whether money or not, and it's the language. Like, I don't understand. Like, I kind of understand he's saying like F6 is definitely a portion of the piece.
Yeah.
Right. But what does he mean when transposed to theory? Like, I don't know what that means.
Well, what it means is what we don't understand or what we don't communicate very well in poker. So I get what he's saying there, and I think it's beautifully said, and we don't talk this way enough in poker. What he's saying is, in a vacuum where we understand perfectly what the EV of all these moves are, the highest EV move for your opponent, if he knows what he's doing, was the last one that he demonstrated. I don't know what it was. Bishop to
The
something.
F7 35.
Right, exactly, right. And he's saying, but then we're transposing into theory because we have to make the assumption that he's playing perfectly. So what he's actually saying is, why don't you understand you're not against a grandmaster, so it's unlikely that he's playing perfectly. And the EV differential between these two moves is really just predicated upon how he counters. So if you gain EV by him having an improper counter, just risk it, right? It's not a big loss.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's well said. That's well said in their language.
Right.
The Alpha 35-4.
Sure. That's the other thing too. It's like, yes, you're right that the barrier of entry learning wise is difficult. And it's kind of it is in poker too, but it's fugazi. Because in poker, all you need to know is what beats what.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like you're equipped to play. That's not true. In chess, all you need to know is the board, right? And how the pieces technically move. And that feels more complex, right? Because now each square is assigned a letter and a number, right? So maybe it's like E1 or whatever, like across the board. But it wouldn't take that long to learn the grid.
Yeah.
You know, it would just be like pretty intuitive. It's like, okay, this row is A, B, C, D, E, and these numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So like eventually you'll learn it. You'll learn how the pieces move. It'll take longer than learning the hand ranking chart in poker. But the reality is that once you have both of those things fundamentally understood in each game, from that point forward, it is so complex and so nuanced that the ignorance is bliss route of poker is what allows people to retain longer. Whereas in chess, they can objectively say like, okay, right now you're in 800 and you need to learn this, 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 and this to climb the rank to being a 900.
Why do you think, because I was having this discussion yesterday, I like the way they teach poker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sorry.
Chess.
Yeah. Because there's machines in chess.
Yeah.
There's solvers in chess, right? But I feel like they're not so attached to the solve. Like they're not just sitting there like, he's not telling him like, oh, let me pull up the solve.
Right.
Like yesterday I was watching, someone teaching poker and it was like, he didn't even say anything. He never gave his opinion.
Just said, let's run it.
He just said every decision, let's just run it. Let's just run it. It's like, why are you there?
Yeah.
Like,
why did I hire you?
Yeah. Like, why are you like, I'll just have like my little sister who's like pretty good at like computers be like, hey, put in these inputs and hit the button.
Yeah.
And I'll see what's going on.
Right. Because like he's not even translating at that point. The reason why in chess there's so much more forgiving and so much more, I guess, willing to experiment is because they've seen now 7, 8, 9 iterations of Stockfish, each one pummeling the last.
What do you mean by Stockfish?
That was the original chess engine.
Oh, okay.
Right? So the current version of it would just absolutely destroy the first version of it.
Mm.
And with each iteration, they recognize that the machine gets better. What they should also recognize is that the machine was originally flawed. So if they took it as the letter of the law, they were wrong, right? They were quote unquote wrong if we're judging in a black and white world where we're only talking about optimal and suboptimal. They were suboptimal.
Yeah.
Right. And then Google launched not AlphaGo, the other one, Alpha something. AlphaGo was the Go program, but Alpha whatever was their chess program. And it destroyed Stockfish, right? So it's like the computer keeps getting better. Humans are dragging their feet behind. They can never have the bandwidth to perform at the level of a computer. We just won't see humans beat computers from this point forward, right? Like eventually we're going to get into quantum computing power and things that like will just blow your mind. Like what's going to happen in the next 20 to 30 years, technologically speaking, is going to be revolutionary. And we have to accept that that's not our greatest value as human beings, right? Our greatest value is the ability to zoom out and take the 10,000 foot approach and parse a lot of really dense, nuanced information into something that's applicable on a wide scale kind of way. We're good at art. We're good at music. We're good at things that aren't necessarily binary code.
Social
geniusing. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
But we're not good. We're not good at the ones and zeros, right? We're much better at broad strokes and being human, being flawed. Like we find a lot of beauty in our flaws. That's where a lot of our ultimate growth comes from in evolution, right? So I think in chess, what they recognize is like, okay, we have solutions, and they're going to be very illuminating as far as like how we can grow the way we think about this game from a 10,000 foot point of view, but we can never mimic them. So what they need to be doing is looking at these engines and saying like, okay, why did that occur? What bigger principle can I attach that to that can help me understand why this machine, which is infinitely better at parsing and iterating than I ever could be, arrived at that solution, right? So effectively, it's like looking at the answer in the back of a math book, but still having to show your work. They're filling in the gap, showing in the work. And that's something that we will eventually start to prioritize in poker. And it's what we personally here put an emphasis on in our teaching. But currently speaking, everybody's just so enamored that answers exist in an otherwise imperfect information world that they're getting hung up on a calculation that absolutely doesn't transpose into their environment.
I agree. I was having this, during my lesson this week in homeschool, there was a spot it was fairly simple, but it was like, we have tens on like, what was the exact board that we were discussing? King 7-5, King 8-6 or something like that.
King 8-5.
Yeah, King 8-5, and it was like, okay, we have tens. We bet the flop for third. Turn comes like a card less than a 10, right? That is not an 8.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, should we bet or not? And it's like, okay, well, it's simple. Like theoretically, you shouldn't bet, but if this person's gonna call you with an 8, and he's not gonna check raise you enough, and you could just exploitatively bet 35% for value in position, and like it's whatever, like, but that's not theory, that's just knowing. And there was a time probably like last year or like a year and a half ago where I probably wouldn't even have said that. I would have just like omitted that from the situation. One, because I don't want someone to challenge me and be like, oh, that's not theoretically correct, or
exactly.
It's just,
you don't want them to run the solve and say like tens is like a 3% bet here,
right? And it's like, yeah, but like there are parameters that would allow you clearly to bet here, and you should know that if you want to become better, because if I don't tell you that, then you're just missing out on that aspect. But that comes with a certain level of responsibility for, one, me be able to explain the parameters well, and two, them to be able to implement the parameters well. And I think that's where everybody's a little afraid. Yeah,
that's nuance, right? That's what makes talent in this game. That's ultimately what derives your bottom line. What people really don't take to heart enough is that this is a zero-sum game, and that if we all were capable of doing what the solver does, no one would make any money. So where's the money coming from? You can't just be arrogant enough to say that the money is coming from a bunch of people who don't know what you know and are giving up EV, because that's not true. Everybody's looking at the same fucking outputs, right? Like somebody commented in our YouTube that you're awful because you raise called off a 35, cut off first button in a tournament with jacks. And that's just a pure 4-bet shove. They have the range converter ranges, and you're not allowed to call with jacks.
I'm not allowed.
So I replied.
They deleted
with,
the button off my.
I replied and I said, like, if that's a pure shove, can you explain to me how much EV Christian's actually losing? And I assume we're also assuming that you're playing perfectly because, well, you have those ranges. So you're obviously at equilibrium, right? So, you know, what's the EV loss here? How much of a hit does he take? And like, what's so laughable is like calling with jacks doesn't turn to negative EV.
Yeah, it can't lose money.
Right. It can't lose money at all, right? It's like if shoving is like plus X, calling might be plus X minus like a fraction, right? Maybe. And that's assuming that he's playing perfectly.
Right.
If he's ever too wide with his 3-bet or not traversing post flop correctly, right? Because the entire tree,
C-betting too frequently.
the whole tree changes the second those 3 cards come off, right? Like he could have had a perfect 3-bet range pre, but if he doesn't know what he's doing on every single flop texture and he gives up any level of EV, right? Like if you get one single street of value off of him where he has an inferior hand and shouldn't have bet it or shouldn't have called with it, all of that negates.
The question I always, you know, when I see those comments of like, oh, Christian's bad because he didn't 4-bet shove jacks off 35, you know, cut off his button. I always sit there and I'm like, does he think that I don't know that that's a shove? Or like what, like, does he think I don't know that I could just shove there? And I just sit, and I just sit there like, that's a very easy, it's easy for me to shove. It's like, oh, I don't want to play the hand anymore. I'm all in, you know?
Right.
But it's like, and I wrote this to you and I'm like, I almost feel like writing back like why I probably didn't shove. It's like, you're either too wide, so I want to call, or you're too tight.
Right.
So I want to not shove.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the two things. You're not playing equilibrium, which is probably why I didn't shove. You're on a spectrum, one like way on one
What
of the
you're
other
really
two ends.
saying is I don't respect you enough to shove.
Yeah.
I don't think that you are so elite that the only thing I can choose is the inexploitable play,
Correct.
which is shoving.
Yeah. I'm going to start writing that.
Yeah, like what you're really saying is I think I'm better than you in some capacity, whether it's navigating post flop or it's understanding your range construction through this action. And that's going to allow me to either keep you wide and stack more hands or tighten you up and allow me to make exploitative folds. In any event, you're basically saying like, we are not equal. And I don't know if I have the edge or you have the edge, but what I'm certain of is that you haven't neutralized this situation to the point where I have so much respect for you that I'm only going to make the unexploitable play.
I think that's true. I think that's exactly what happened. Like, I didn't want to tell him that, but that's pretty much what happened. And it was interesting because I was like, man, this guy's been saying this for like 3.5 weeks. Like, I don't remember the hand.
Right.
Like, I don't remember the hand.
Oh, he stacked you.
No way.
Yeah, queens.
Oh, wow. So I should have shoved pre and just got it in.
Got stacked anyway.
Okay. So what happened was it came 10 high and I check shoved.
Yeah.
And he had queens. But if I got it in pre, he had queens.
Yeah.
So I gave myself a chance. If it came ace, king, X, maybe it just goes check, 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 and I don't lose.
Right.
So I was right. He's probably too tight. So I called, and then I was like, okay, this is a pretty good board, even against a tight range.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm all in.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn it, he's still tight.
Right. Like, does he think that he's just wrecking you with ace 5 suited?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
It's like, oh, if he doesn't shove jacks there, like my ace 5 suited just prints. It's like, does it?
no, it doesn't print. But hey, to each their own. Oh, God bless these guys, man. I'll be there next week. All right. So going back to wrap up the segment of content with poker, Andrew, Nimi, and Brad Owen have started releasing videos again. Brad Owen released a video, and I want to showcase how many views it has in roughly 24 hours.
Okay.
So let's put that up. 184,000 at the time of production. By now, I've been told in my microphone right now or in my headphones that it's over 200,000. I mean, that's pretty good. And I want to say that because, you know, obviously he's good at what he does, but also people are craving content.
For sure. For sure.
So what is the path? Because like obviously we're trying to create content. There's people out there that want this content. Like how do we get this chess boom? How do we get people caring about Brad Owen? How do we build this hype?
I think some of it is youth, right? Like I think really some of it comes from cultivating a young up and coming 20 something who is socially aware and able to carry themselves in a fun way, yet a somewhat professional way as well. Because they build TikTok, right? They build IG. They build out these social platforms that we're a little bit less in tune with as the older guard. And from that spills into a YouTube channel and things like that. Like what Owen and Nimi have accomplished should not be scoffed at. It's very impressive, right? When I was talking earlier about like them not being able to scale to Negreanu, I still think that's true, but they're testing the upper boundaries. And I think that's really impressive because that's a hard thing to achieve, especially like in an industry that doesn't exactly lend itself to aesthetics. It's not easy to display this game in a fun way. And what is abundantly clear is that people are loyal to people, not to brands.
Yeah.
If you look at Triton, Paul Fua, Poker Central, even our stuff, right? I think like one of the biggest mistakes that I made when we first launched was launching the Solve4Y YouTube channel instead of just the Matt Berkey YouTube channel. I think it's what Polk did smartly.
Yeah.
Polk's YouTube channel, 250,000 subs. Upswing's YouTube channel, 25,000 subs.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. People want to be loyal to another person. So it's like big oversight, very difficult challenge to overcome. Don't know how to get around it, right? And the issue is that the only people who are going to be able to mass produce content are going to be brands. So how do we create that loyalty throughout the space? And I don't know, right? We don't have that. Poker Central, Poker Go is the closest thing we see to that central media entity that can take the reins here. But it's just not happening, right? They have all of these licensing deals to get all of this content out, and no one's fucking watching.
Yeah. So it's definitely a thing. It's like an interpersonal thing where people are like, I kind of relate to him. I also think he's pretty good at poker. I learn a little bit from his channel, and I get that vibe as if they're almost like living. How do you say that when you're living through
vicariously?
Yeah, living vicariously.
Yeah.
Through Brad Owen.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you want to live vicariously through me, know more about the swingers and all that stuff that we used to talk about, I got you, man. Tune into the channel, like the channel, subscribe. I'll be here talking about swingers, talking about beefs, talking about chess, talking about Black Lives Matter, talking about, I mean, what more do they want?
It's not just poker though. It's industry wide, right? Like Joe Rogan is bigger than On It, but Joe Rogan owns a piece of On It.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's just the nature of humans in that they want to connect with somebody personally.
But nothing's bigger than Google.
No, but Google doesn't have a YouTube channel.
Mark Zuckerberg's not bigger than Facebook.
I don't know.
And that's a close one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Trump is not bigger than Trump. I guess he is now. All right. Well, I want to introduce a new segment to the show. We'll see if people like it. We'll see. We're testing the boundaries, throwing a little spice. So you've been big on online poker. We've never thought we'd see the day. Now you're back on the online streets, grinding all the time. And you've had some hand histories that you've been surprised at. And the truth of the matter is that you're tired of people talking shit about you and you want to throw some shade at the other people.
A little bit. Because here's the thing. I've seen some shit, man.
From good players.
These are all regs. I'll never post a hand that's not a reg.
Okay.
These are all regs. I've
them.
Deleted their names for
to
the
protect
sake of
protect the innocent.
Exactly. But yeah, they're all regs, and there's some wild stuff happening in these streets.
So these are regulars online that are pros. I would know them. I would know them if I went to register right now at the 1700 at Venetian and he was at my table, I would be like, oh, that's this person.
Maybe, maybe not. Some of them are like Jersey regs, whatever.
I know Jersey regs. I'm Jersey.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Okay, so I know.
But whatever. Like, the whole point is that, like, yeah, they are professional poker players.
They're professional poker players. All right, so
10, 20, no limit.
that's high stakes. That's pretty high stakes. You have like rents on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this segment is called Is This GTO? Is this game theory optimal? And let's play it. I will walk through the hand history. Okay. So is this GTO? We see a limp, probably from a recreational player. You're going to raise to 80, Berkey 11, get 3-bet to 220. The flop is 6-5-3, face a small bet. Small raise from you, call, check, check. Okay, 10, check, check. Okay, let's stop right there. Okay, so I want to walk through this hand, right?
Okay.
Because this is important right now.
Yeah.
Man, production fucking paused it perfectly. Okay, so you get 3-bet from the big blind.
Yeah.
Usually a really polarized range. But
Should be.
But he used a small sizing.
Wasn't small.
He made it 220?
220 or 240.
Yeah, you made it 80.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Okay. So he's relatively small sizing. So he's not, he has a pretty all-encompassed range. Then on the flop, he chooses a small sizing, something like 40%.
Yeah.
And you choose a small raise.
Yeah.
Okay. So
What do you think of the raise?
I like this raise as like a protection raise / value raise. I probably would have chose a slightly bigger size, maybe like 500, but I think it's fine. I think this presents a lot of problems, but I don't think he's folding. Like,
Well, I don't want him to fold. I have jacks.
yeah, that's true. Like, but he's not folding like ace king either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that a problem?
I mean, yeah, you're right. Okay, so then he calls. So now the turn's a deuce. This is a bad card for his range. Definitely a better card for you than him. You could be raising some 4Xs. You can have 5-4 suited. You can have spades. Okay. Okay, so this pro, he checks. You check back. Okay, there could be argument for a small bet there for range purposes, but check back's nice. You have jack.
Sure.
River's a 10. He checks. And now you have the jack high flush. You have to decide, okay, do I ever get called by worse? Maybe sometimes. Do you ever get check raised? That would be terrible. So you choose to check, which is fine. Okay.
Is that GTO?
He had 5 deuce of clubs. This guy's playing professional poker at high limits.
Is that GTO?
He had $1,400 in front of him. I paid, my rent is $1,000.
Yeah.
No, it's not GTO. GTO. Is he using a polarized 3-bet range pre-flop?
Look, here's the thing. I don't even want to be that critical. It's Hood. Whatever.
It's
He's out in
Hood?
the streets. The whole thing I don't understand.
What street is that?
I mean, he's getting gangster. He thinks I'm
Lucky
fly.
Lane?
I don't fucking know.
That's fucking Lucky Lane right there.
Well, the whole thing I don't understand is, yeah, I'm isolating a limper who is likely a recreational player, but you got 5 high. Like, good hands kind of just want to keep the rec in.
Yeah, yeah.
I get it if you have like kings or queens you want to protect, you know, and play a big pot against me who's likely light, yada, yada, yada. But like, you know, you got like good hands, like ace queen, aces. Sometimes you just want to call there and let the other guy come in.
I think this is the best marketing we could do for WSOP.com. You know, they should be like sponsoring us now. Like people watching this are gonna play 10-20 now.
Sure. The games are good. I've completed the 100K challenge. Low
key on the low.
Just I mean, I did, you know, I played some bigger stakes, but a lot of it's been like 10-20 plus. The games are fucking good. The games are very live-like. Let's put it that way.
I play 5-10 at the win. They don't 3-bet the 5 deuce though.
It's fair. I've played in games where they 3-bet the 5 deuce. I get 3-bet by the 5 deuce.
I've never gotten 3-bet by the 5 deuce. Unless maybe I didn't see it.
You need the face.
Maybe I didn't see
You
it.
know, you need that face equity. Like I got. I want to do this though. I'm gonna put this out like on social every single day. Just like, is this GTO? I'm just gonna keep throwing up hand histories.
I think people are gonna be curious. I think you're gonna get the DMs like, who was that?
I'm never telling who it is, but I think it's like I think it's good to illuminate that this game isn't played in a vacuum, right? Like, I can't study for the 5 deuce 3-bet. You know?
Yeah, you didn't give him the 2-pair on the turn.
Right. Like, I think I have a really close decision, both turn and river. Like, super close, because that should be a really polarizing 3-bet range. Like, you know, if it's linear in nature, we're talking like 10s or king queen at the bottom probably, and some of them are going to be spades.
Right.
So it's like, it's super close. Like, I'm obviously that doesn't demonstrate like how much time is being taken on each street. On the river, like, I tanked for a long time. It's like, can I ever get called by red aces here? And like, because like that's really what you're targeting. There's no worse spade, you wouldn't think.
Yeah, arguably like 9s, but who knows? Maybe that's
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems ambitious.
Yeah, it's ambitious for sure. Is this GTO? So there's been a lot of shots taken in this. We started with the guru. I still don't know his name. This person with the 5 deuce, also don't know his name. Allegedly could be the guru too. WSOP got shots taken. The only thing that got good is the chess.
I didn't take shots at WSOP. I think they're doing what they should do. I don't like it. I wish they wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's their Christmas.
Yeah, it's their Christmas lights. So
here's another way of framing this. Not to circle all the way back, but if you regularly charge 1.05 for a 10K, should you charge 1.05 for the main event?
No, of course not. Not close.
Why?
Well, because the EV of the main event is higher, like for sure.
Your Christmas.
Yeah.
Supply and demand. You'd get eaten up. Everybody would buy you at 1.05. You got to challenge the market boundaries, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You price according to what people are willing to pay.
Yeah,
that's all they're doing.
A good point. That's
all they're doing.
That's a good point. So, I hope you all enjoyed the show. Of course, subscribe, like, enjoy Berkey's Twitter, man. He's out there spitting game to both the women and spitting facts to the haters, right?
Sure.
If I appreciate it, Berkey. But subscribe, like, share with your friends, and of course, it is myself, Christian Soto, my co-host Matt Big Bet Berkey. I think we did a good job today. And I hope you all enjoyed the show. You know what? I want to pull something up my sleeve. I think we should play the Bellagio intro again, just to end the show. I think we should end the show with the Bellagio intro, and that'll be our outro today. And I hope you all enjoyed the show. Good night and good luck.
Las Vegas is back, completely corona-free. Here at the Bellagio, the only thing we've tested positive for is decadence. Come to our world-famous poker room and isolate yourself from the infected commoners. Don't let all the empty seats fool ya. It's normally packed with high rollers, socially distancing themselves from the ongoing class war outside the casino walls. With our new state-of-the-art glass dividers, you get the type of privacy you deserve in a public space. It's like going to a peep show or visiting your brother in prison. So come on down to Bellagio Poker Room. Please will you come? The bank is giving us 2 months to show a profit, otherwise